So, good morning. I was asked to tell a couple spicy stories of customer vehicles that I have worked on that basically were just so nasty that you just refused to work on them. One of the vehicles I worked on was back when I was a diesel technician working for International. A guy came in a semi and he was having some problems with his light switch. And I go to walk out to the parking lot. It's parked outside one of the bays, and it's sitting there running. I didn't know why the vehicle was running because I assumed that nobody was in the truck. So I go walk up to the truck, knock on the door. Nobody answers the door. I go back in and talk to my service manager, and I said, "Hey, the truck's outside running, and I don't know if somebody's in there or not." He says, "Just go ahead and do your work or whatever. It's customers probably walking around or something like that. So I go back out to the truck and I'm trying to verify the customer concern. I go to open the door and all of a sudden this dog starts barking. And I go ahead, hurry up and push the door closed a little bit, and I see back there's a pit bull sitting in the corner of a bed. And he's sitting there just growling and stuff like that. And I see a hand holding him back. And I go to close, as I'm going to close the door, because I'm worried about, I hear this big burly voice in the back. "It's okay. You can do your work." And I look back there, peek around the seat. It's this man holding his dog back. This guy had to be every bit of, over 400 pounds. And he was only about, I don't know, looked to be somewhere around 6 foot tall. Big, nasty, sloppy, burly thing. And I look down in between the seats where it comes from his bunk to the front of the truck, and I see nothing but garbage, food wrappers, look to be piss bottles and stuff under the bed, and there's just crap all over the place, and the smell is so bad inside the cab of this truck that my eyes start watering, and I start choking on the smell. I had to keep sticking my head out of the truck to get some fresh air. But with the fresh air and what smelled like ammonia mixing in together, it just kept gagging and my eyes kept watering. And I'm trying to open the door back up to get in the truck so I could get to the guy's dash to kind of peek and see what's going on. And I can't breathe. It's to the point where my eyes are just watering so bad and stuff, I can't even focus on my job. I had to close the door of the truck and go back into the office and tell my service manager, "I can't work on this thing, man. The customer's still in the vehicle. He's got a dog in the vehicle. The dog's growling and stuff like that. The truck is just trash with garbage and piss bottles and stuff all over the place. And the god-awful smell coming from out of this truck is just so nasty. I can't work on this thing. I really cannot work on this truck. It's not something I'm willing to do." I apologize, and my service manager said, "Are you serious? It's that bad?" And I said, I cannot do it. I won't work on this truck. And he goes out there and he opens the door, and the first whiff of smell that he gets out of this truck, he just kind of leaned enough over the seat to where he can look at the customer, and he said, "Hey man, we can't work on this truck. You can't be in the truck when we're working on it. You got your dog and stuff in here. The smell coming from this truck is just ungodly, and it's just not something we feel comfortable doing. You're going to have to take this truck somewhere else or get it cleaned out and then bring it back, and we'll work on it." It's just so nasty that, I mean, the guy had his belongings and his paperwork and everything so built up along the passenger side door, down from the seat down into the floor and stuff like that. There's just crap all over this truck, and that's the first vehicle I ever declined to work on because of how nasty and disgusting it was. And that was the first situation. I think it was like an old International, I think they called them back then a 944 Eagle or something like that. I think that's what it's called. Some of you guys can correct me, but it was an old Eagle International. I couldn't do it. I had to walk away from that job, and the customer had to go somewhere else to get his work done. I don't know what he ended up doing, but that was my first job I turned down. There was another situation where a customer came in for a airbag replacement on a Fusion at the Ford dealer, and this is a couple years ago when that airbag really was real hot, and everybody was coming in to have their airbags recalled. The Takata airbag, some of you know what I'm talking about. And they leave the vehicle and they go home. Now I go to get in this vehicle to pull it into the shop. I already got my parts pulled and everything sitting on my bench. Walk out of the parking lot, get in the vehicle, and before I even open the door, I noticed that there's looks like what grayish white snow all along the window trim. It's not snowing outside, but that's what it looked like. And as I'm going to open the door, I get this whiff of what smells to be an ashtray. And it's one of those things where it's so heavy, it's like you have a cigarette in your mouth and you're smoking. That's how bad it is. I go to sit down in the vehicle, and as I sit down in the vehicle, the little bit of pressure in the air movement of me sitting down in the seat puffs up like a mini cloud of dust from the seat, which is ashes. And it puffs out to the side, and it's disgusting. And now I'm closing my eyes because you can sense the saturation of this ashtray inside this vehicle in your eyes. And I'm going like this, trying to drive into the shop, and I'm trying to make it in there as much as I can. And I finally get it in the door of the shop, but I get out of the car immediately because I'm trying to catch some fresh air, and it's right by the porter bay. So I asked the porter, I said, hey, will you roll the windows down on this thing and just blow all this whatever in here off of this thing, just get it out of here? And he goes to open the vehicle, and he starts gagging on the smell of the ashtray that's inside this vehicle so bad. And I go to get back into the vehicle, and I get it down to my stall, and the smell of just ashtray is so bad inside this thing. As I start to remove stuff, I take my finger and I go up and I scrape the window, and it's just yellow tar coming off the window. Now, mind you, I got to pull the whole entire dash assembly and lay it forward on the seat, pull one side forward, do my work from the back. The whole center console's got to come out. So I start doing my work in the front, and I can't focus on the work that I'm doing because it's so nasty and so thick with cigarette smoke inside this vehicle. And as I'm pulling apart the center console, taking all the plastic, compartments off and stuff like that, so I can get down into the center console where the bolts are that are holding everything down, there's more cigarettes, and there's more ashes, and there's more just disgusting crap inside this vehicle that eventually I find a whole entire row of cigarettes underneath this console as I go to pull it. I could not work on this vehicle. I was done at that point. I couldn't focus on my job anymore. I was having a hard time being in this vehicle, and there's just, it had to be like a small garbage bag, like a grocery store bag that you turn into a small garbage bag of nothing but cigarette butts and ashes and stuff inside this, and I couldn't work on it. I had to go tell my service manager, I'm not going to work on this vehicle. I can't breathe in the damn thing. There's just cigarette butts all over the place. It's disgusting. Every time you remove a piece of plastic or a compartment or something like that, it's just more cigarette butts and more ashes. And it's like this guy lives out of this thing. And we had to call the customer up and say, hey, look, you're going to have to get this car detailed before we can do anything to it. Eventually, the customer did go take it and get it professionally detailed. They couldn't ever get the smoke out of it completely. But I had to decline to work on this vehicle at the time. And it's an old man, and he drives a paper route. And he gets up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to go pick up his newspapers and stuff like that to deliver it to people's homes. And he basically lives out of this thing from 4 o'clock in the morning to 7 or 8, until he's done delivering papers. And he smokes like a chimney. And everything is just another pack of cigarettes, and there's those Native American packs of cigarettes all over the place inside the natural cigarettes, just all over inside there. And when I seen this old man show up to pick up his car, I felt bad. But it is what it is. He looked like he's probably 70 years old, kind of hunched over, real wrinkly skin and stuff. Looked like he'd been through hell. And sure enough, as he's leaving the dealership, walking back out to his car, he pulls out a pack of cigarettes and lights one up and jumps in the car, goes to pull out of the parking lot. All the windows rolled up, and he's sitting inside the vehicle, smoking a cigarette with the windows rolled up, just baking that thing out with cigarette smoke. Surprising that he made it to 70 years old, but that's the first two vehicles I've ever declined to work on because of how nasty they were inside. And some of the vehicles that show up at the dealership are just disgusting. And I wish people would, clean up after themselves. If they know we're going to work on their vehicles, don't leave the stuff in their vehicles like it is, because it just makes it very, very difficult for us to work on them. And sometimes we don't want to work on them because of how nasty they are. And we're not obligated to. If they get to a point where we don't feel like we're safe or we're uncomfortable or something like that, then we won't work on them. Now, I did have to decline a third job another time, but it was for safety reasons. A gentleman showed up in like a 13 or 14 F-150. Now, mind you, I'm a 2A guy. I'm licensed, everything else. But when this guy showed up in his truck, it wasn't just a hand pew-pew. There was like two rifles in the back seat. There was one in the passenger seat. There was a couple handguns in holsters or whatever. And there was, it's just he was an old war vet. And, military stickers all over the place. But it looked like this guy had a small arsenal in his truck, just kind of laid out all over. And, there's nothing illegal about that here. But at the same time, there was so much stuff in there. I felt so uncomfortable having that at a public facility like this, where anybody could get in there and have access to this stuff. And there's no way that I could guarantee anybody's safety. And I said, I can't work on this. You're going to have to take this somewhere else, or you're going to have to download all this stuff at home safely and then bring the vehicle back. But I can't have this here at the facility. It's like a little mini arsenal inside this guy's vehicle. So those are the first three vehicles I ever declined anything because of safety reasons or because of how nasty or neglected the vehicles were. And I just didn't feel comfortable working in them because of the situation. Y'all be blessed. Have a great day, and I'll catch y'all later.